But Rohan Ricketts, former Spurs, Arsenal and Wolves winger, is with us in the studio. And we're having an interesting chat outside, Rohan, about... I'm interested to know what was your route. You're not the biggest of players, and you said the sort of players that clubs are looking for now, they're looking for big, quick players. And it's becoming probably harder for players of your size to kind of break through. What was your route into the game? I mean, you said you came from South London. How did you kind of become a pro?
I was 10 years old playing for South London District, and I got spotted by, I think, Steve Rowley or one of those Arsenal scouts, and they were looking for young, talented, but when I say talented, I mean technically gifted football players who could play quick 1-2 touch football. Then Arsene Wenger came in, and that kind of emphasis went even more so forward, and then players like myself pushed to the forefront. And Stephen Sidwell is a great mate of mine. I ain't seen him for ages. He's more of a robust type, English style. And as you can see, he's pushed on so much in the game. And I think that England as a nation, they need to kind of change the way they look at things, change their philosophy.
I think we were saying that there are players coming through like McEachran at Chelsea, so we're really excited about, and Jack Wilshere is well known now that he's a very good prospect. They are small players, and you were saying some of the best players in the world are small. Yeah,
Jack Wilshere has been very fortunate. He's top drawer. I love him, biggest fan. But Arsene Wenger is the manager. If he was brought up at Hull City, you wouldn't see him. Guarantee. If you took Cesc Fabregas down to Watford Football Club and put a plastic bag over his head, had him train and play, I'm telling you, they wouldn't take him on because he's not their style for their philosophy. But then you take his plastic bag off and they'll be shocked. Yeah. I've seen it a lot.
Andy makes that point that when a team's very successful like the Spanish, other countries think, well, that's the blueprint, we'll copy it. But it would be very difficult for England to do that. I'm sure Trevor Brooking would love to do that, but why don't we do it, you think, Ryan? Why don't we actually kind of rip the whole thing up and say, OK, let's look at the way these teams play. Let's see if we can do that. Have we got it in us to do that?
Maybe I think the ego stops us too much. We have the island mentality. We think anything outside of it ain't as good as us. And I think players such as maybe Frank Lampard and top draw football player scores lots of goals. Those players, that style of player, mate, because he scores a lot of goals. But then when you compare him to maybe who I would say is the best two central midfield players in the world, Iniesta, Xavi, they don't score as much goals as Frank put together. But what they're respected for is their artistry, as playmaking and playing football with the ball and moving the ball 1 and 2 touch. That's what football's all about. It's a beautiful game.
It's true, but I mean, you look at Arsenal. I was saying to you the other day against Newcastle. All right, normally they probably would beat Newcastle, but you looked at their lineup and they have got 5 or 6 very small, slight players. And you look at teams like Chelsea who are physical, like City who are very powerful, and that kind of is the way, isn't it? I mean, can you win? Can Arsene Wenger win the league with that Spanish-style small team?
I'm not sure if they can win the league, but for one thing, I would say football's a spectacle first. So even if they don't win, they're always going to entertain. Their clubs run very well, very healthy state. And so what we see as success sometimes isn't everything. Winning the league. Some teams like Man United, they're in debt. That's a big problem. So then Arsene Wenger, as he said, he's running his club well. He's brought through a lot of players. He's bought players like Patrick Vieira for 500 grand, sold them for 30 million. He's done that a few times over.
No, I don't think anyone's disputing Arsene Wenger is a brilliant manager and what he's done at Arsenal and the way they play and what they do for football. All that side of it. But if you're an Arsenal fan, you are still thinking after 5 years, well, how much nearer are we to winning the title? I mean, in the end, you want to win something, don't you? It is about winning.
It is, but it depends. Are you going to sell your soul to win the title? I think we got to appreciate if teams like Arsenal.
You are a purist.
Yeah, I am. I love the game. Like Spain, they won the World Cup. As you said, a lot of England fans didn't thought they played great. Barcelona this season, they may not win the league because Real Madrid looks strong. That's my opinion. But they're never ever going to change their philosophy. And with that, they have something, an identity. Do you understand what I mean?
Sure.
They're always going to be entertained. Always. That's what it's all about. Because a lot of people now, that I speak to so many different people who don't get the same pleasure from watching a football match. But when Arsenal and Barcelona come around, you really want to watch them, whether they win or not.
What about the tackling, Ryan? When we saw another tackle by Lee Cattermole last night, the people are divided on at the moment on Luka Modric. I mean, we've seen some pretty robust tackles recently. Is it any different? I mean, from kind of when you were playing in the Premier League? I mean, certainly as a winger, you do take a fair bit of stick, don't you? What have you made of the kind of tackling we've seen recently?
I think it's kind of crazy, but at the same time, there's so much pressure on the line. And like, if you pull out a tackle, you're gonna hear it. So you might as well get in there, get hurt, get stuck in. It's really tough on the players. Like me, myself, I originally was playing central midfield for Spurs and Arsenal. And the type of player I wasn't really kind of expected to fly into these tackles, so I was quite fortunate. But I remember once I was playing against, was it Joey Barton?
Yeah.
And I remember running into him, and he came flying in.
Yeah.
And then, so now I know what's going on. Players like Joey, Lee, and one of my favourite tacklers, Nigel de Jong.
Yeah.
I think that those guys need to be on the most wanted list.
Well, we're just saying that it's not so much, they're not setting out to do you, but if they're not,
it's reckless.
If they're not completely in control, if they're kind of sliding in, and okay, they're going to get the ball, a bit of the ball, all of the ball. But if you're going as well, then so be it. I mean, is that fair game? You think, as a player, do you think that's fair game as someone who played in the central midfield? If you're going to take man and ball, it doesn't really matter.
No, you got to go. It's a man's sport. You're going to get hit. But I think it's just horrible when you see people. You can see them being nasty. Do you know what I mean? Like Nigel de Jong, when he put his foot on, was it Xavi Alonso's chest?
Yeah, in the final.
Yeah. Things like that are a bit kind of, they're crazy or nuts, as I like to say. But other than that, sliding in, man and ball, that's great.
Fair game, okay.
Yeah. What about keeping fit while you're looking for a new club?
That's imperative. So
how do you do that?
I work out twice a day. I like to run on the streets. I don't really like to use a treadmill because it's kind of like helps you along. The fitness is the base, and even more so now. I remember I was at Barnsley, and I was kind of, if I'm being honest with myself, I wasn't working as hard as I should when I was injured. And then I came back in the team, and my fitness was in question.
Yeah.
And then, so my ability is nothing to do with it anymore. I remember John Gregory said to me once when I was at QPR, he said, "You're the most talented player here, but you're not the fittest." And so I can't play you all the time. And those things hit me, and I can be honest about them on air.
Yeah.
So any young player out there listening to this, make sure you keep your fitness.
It's not enough just to have the talent. You've got to put a shift in as well, haven't you, really? That's the key, isn't it? You've got to keep fit, and you've got to be right on it. To play at this level, it's got so much harder to play, isn't it?
You often hear somebody like Perez, who's been out of football for a little while, not that you've been out of football, but will go and train with Arsenal, with a team. I mean, it must be easier to train with a team than it is training on your own. It must be hard, that.
It is.
Motivational.
Definitely is, but I've got to push myself, and I think that as humans we have what we need within us, so I keep driving myself. It would be great to go and train with an Arsenal or Chelsea or Spurs, but I haven't made those kind of calls, but it's a good idea actually. No. Thanks.
Ron, good to see you. People
Good
can
to
read
see you, Ron,
they can read your stuff on Sabotage Times. It's on there, isn't it, on the website there?
And RohanRicketts.com.
RohanRicketts.com, Ron's own website. And you're off to Germany. You've got a few options there, you were telling us. So we could see you back playing possibly in the Bundesliga soon.
Yeah, hopefully.
Fantastic.
Brilliant.
Good to meet you, Ron. Thanks
Thank you
very much
very
for coming
much.
in.